Hey everyone, welcome back to Be a Warrior podcast. It is great to be back here this week and so lovely to have you join us. If this is your first time, welcome. My name is Angie and I'm an above knee amputee. December will be 7 years that I became an amputee. And this podcast truly takes you through my personal journey with the hope of motivating and empowering others to live really full, healthy lives and understanding the nuances of amputee life, but also it helps people just struggling in life in general. At least that's my hope. This week, real quick, I would like to give a big shout out to all of our veterans. Thank you so much for your service, your dedication, and your sacrifice to defend our country and our freedoms here in America. And I am forever grateful. Thank you so much for your service. Moving on this week, I had several different thoughts in my head for what I really wanted to approach, but the winter became something that I'd gone through. Like I told you, a lot of times it's what I go through the week. And even talking to my prosthetist this week, just getting an idea of what's kind of out there and what's happening and what the vibe is. So y'all know that this summer I had a revision surgery and an AMI procedure done to my leg out in Boston. If you haven't, take a listen to my vlog or watch my vlog on YouTube. One leg is enough. But basically, I had surgery at the end of June. I was out in Boston, did several trips back and forth for checkups and everything, and worked on a new socket because my leg was reconstructed. I lost some more bone and it had to be a totally different socket. You can't just go back into the one you were wearing, and you have to heal all over again. So it was like starting over with a new amputation. That being said, I have spent about more time than I've ever, but about 3 months of going through check sockets or test sockets, and until we got to the final that we wanted to decorate and look really nice, because there's a lot of man hours that my prosthetist puts into making my design the way I want it to look with the paint and the decals that I have. So we wanted to be sure we were kind of in that final stage, ready for final production. Needless to say, several weeks ago when I got this one, that night it started falling off my leg. That's how quickly I was changing still. So we may have pushed it a little bit, but this is where all this topic today comes into. And that is really about expectations and managing that, because you can put a lot of stress on yourself and your prosthetist and the relationship between the two if your expectations are out of this world, unrealistic, and above and beyond anything. And how do you know this, right? Like if you're a new amputee, you just, after the amputation, you think you've gotten through the hardest part and you just want to get walking again, or at least attempt to, and start practicing and working on it. What people do not tell you most of the time is that getting through the amputation is one whole mess in itself, and the mental game of getting through that and the physical healing of that is another aspect. But when that's all said and done and they say, oh, you've healed great, you're ready to get fitted for a socket, without dampening and raining on your parade, it's not just that easy. You don't just go, they take measurements like a suit and you put it on and you're off and running. It is a process. It is a very big process. And what ends up happening is if you are not prepped for your amputation, especially those who've gone through an accident and this was not part of the game plan, unlike me who, I knew it was coming. So I was mentally prepping, but also getting all my mental aspects lined up to understand the full realm of what I was going to be getting into. And I didn't want it sugar coated. I wanted to know exactly what I was going to be facing once I went to my prosthetist, went to my PT. And so that all is really, really important because, a lot of people will say, first off and foremost, insurance, getting your insurance lined up is key, right? And it is, because without the insurance part, most of us would not be able to afford one of these prosthetic legs, especially the higher up you go, right? Because for me, I need a knee and an ankle. For a below knee, they just need the ankle. And so it gets more expensive the more joints you need. That being said, once the insurance is all lined up and everything, yeah, you have to get the mental fortitude and grit to visualize that you're going to have someone take your leg off or your arm, whatever, but mine is leg. And I always say I go with what I know. So I will talk about legs. Um, and then once you get past that huge hurdle, you have to heal. Okay. Then you get past that hurdle and then everything's smooth sailing, right? I see amputees, they're out walking, they're at the gym, they're doing activities. That's going to be me. And then you realize it's not that easy. Here's what I'm learning as I go through this. I'm learning both sides of it. I listen and I hear people that struggle with fitting, and I see my own case, and I've talked to my prosthetist and a couple other people that are in that field. And putting all that information together, here is the thing. One, patience is a complete virtue with amputation. You not only get through all that beginning stuff and the healing and praying that everything goes well, but now the patience is really tested. You don't know what it's going to feel like because you've never had anything put up on your leg and you have to lean into it and push off of it and trust it. So you have that whole game to go through. And it feels weird at first. And actually, I would dare to say it felt claustrophobic. When you put a leg on and you get an itch somewhere that, God forbid, an itch on the missing limb, and that has happened. It is the worst feeling in the world to have an itch on my shin, and I don't have a shin to itch. Then you start itching your residual limb, and it doesn't reach it, right? Or even worse, when you get an itch on your actual skin within the socket, but you can't reach it because the socket's in the way. So you go through some of those weird nuances, or the fact that you always kind of feel a vibration or a burn or a tingling happening in your missing limb. For me, it's more in the foot. I feel some in the calf, but a lot of it is in the foot, and it's constant. And for me, at first, that really did feel very claustrophobic because I could never escape that sensation. And then I started seeing it as a sensation because I felt phantom pain and realized that other stuff's not so bad. I can deal with that. I just got to stay distracted, keep busy, don't sit around thinking about it. The more I thought about it, the worse it felt. Yeah. So then you go through all that. But the other aspects are you don't know how your sockets are going to fit. You don't know how you're going to work with your prosthetist. You don't know what they are promoting more than another. Some prosthetists have certain prosthesis they like. They have certain art forms to their socket design. So some people do 3D imagery. Some still use casting. There's other ways of it being done. And there are good ways, there's bad ways. And like any doctor, if you go into a doctor's office and talk with a doctor, I bet most of you could say you walk out feeling either really great about the way he kind of was there for you, he heard you, he was listening, eye contact, he had some answers, he had some ideas. Those are winners, right? And then there's other doctors you'll go in and they barely even give you the time of day. They treat you like patient number XYZ. Then they move on to the next patient and you feel empty, or something is churning that says, yeah, he had an idea, he wants to do surgery or he wants to do this, but he didn't even see me. And those are the ones you go, I don't know. Well, the same thing happens for a prosthetist. Not all prosthetists are the same. It is truly um, an apprenticeship type of a position. It is a trial and error kind of job. And they have to get to know you. You have to get to know them. You have to have a push pull relationship where they might help and help, but you've got to give as well. And I say this because this is where I was yesterday. So you all know I said my socket started being loose the first day I took it home. My brand new socket, all painted, beautiful, and it was falling off when I got home, like I was losing suction. It didn't truly fall off, but it feels like it's going to. So then you're tightening up, and then you walk a little bit different because you just don't know if it's going to swing off. So I had that going on, and a day later he went in and he added since I'm skin fit, the only thing you can really do is put some real thin padding between the hard and soft shell of the socket. Nothing can go on my skin. I can't do layers of socks because I don't have a liner. So we put in a few paddings to bring the softer socket closer to my body, but it doesn't change the exoskeleton. That worked for a little bit. And then a week later, I'm like, dude, it's falling off again. I went back in. We made some more adjustments. That time he did big adjustments where he actually took my two parts apart, took my old form out of cement, remade the new cement, I should say, shaved it down so it was a little smaller than what it was looking like. And then he shrunk it. There's a video on that on my website too, on YouTube. But he basically took my inner lining of my socket that attaches to the exoskeleton and kind of made it a little smaller. Like I said, though, the problem is it is made to fit with that exoskeleton that's hard and not movable. And so when you shrink the inner and you then tie them together with the valve and they stay together, there's a much bigger gap between the two versus side by side. So then once we did that, we had to put more pads in just to keep it in place. Well, last week I was like, "Bud, it's falling off again." And we're trying really hard not to remake this yet. We know we're going to be doing that in the very near future, but this baby is still so brand new and I love it so much and she's so pretty. I don't want to do it yet. And I don't want to do that to him yet. And he's got a lot on his plate for Limbs for Humanity because they're taking a bunch of legs back down to Rocky Point Medical in December. Take a listen to them because Limbs for Humanity, fabulous group. But anyways, I digress. So he's really busy this month, and I know this, and I'm not hurting. The funny thing is I'll deal with it. And I told him last week I can't do this anymore. So he was going to get me in on Friday, and I just said, you know what? I can't do Friday. How about next week? So I was there yesterday, and we were just talking about the fact that it is really hard as a prosthetist that really listens and he gives with his whole heart. He really does. When someone has such high expectations that anything that is a little out of sort, they are complaining about and trying to fix little mini things is really hard to dial that in on every socket. It's not like, oh, there's a neuroma and a lot of pain right here, or I'm rubbing raw here, or you can see the red mark there. That's different. But people that expect it to feel like their normal leg are so off base that it makes their job almost impossible. And that those are the people that they can never please. And unfortunately, they all get those people because everyone wants it now. They want it done right and they want no problems. The issue is that every single amputee that walks in the prosthetist door is totally different. Their pain tolerance is different. Their ability to communicate is different. The reason they became an amputee is different and does affect how the fitting fits. And so there's so many variables. And really, he told me, stop waiting to come in and see me. I said, I know, but I just knew that I was really busy. You had things on your plate, and I was going to just get through the weekend, push through. I had a lot to do. Needless to say, the night before I went in, I literally had my whole leg give. And as I was walking in the garage, I felt the whole foot drop to the ground before I went to put that leg down in my swing of my gate. And I was like, "Ooh, it is definitely time to get in." And so that's when you become, it's a safety factor versus anything else. It wasn't hurting, it just wasn't staying with me. And when that happens, then I can't really function as high level as I want to. So that all wrapping this up here, this part of this is the fact that when you are going through something, and I'm just going to speak to amputees right now because this really makes sense here. When you're going through your fitting, you really learn, and there isn't a right or wrong answer, and this is what kills me. People will ask, well, when do you know you should talk to him? Well, I always talk to my guy, and I bounce things off of him and say, here's what I'm feeling, here's what's happening, this is when it's happening. And I talk it through, and he goes, it's probably just this, or this. And I trust him enough because I've been with him forever that I listen to what he says, and then I kind of triage it. Is it imperative that I get in as soon as possible and we need to make changes? Or is this something that, I need to wear it through and see. Like, I've been still dealing with that rubbing of the rawness on my inner groin area. It still happens every once in a while, but I am finding that it happens less when I know that my leg is on really well. So if it's fitting well and I put my leg in really well, like all my skin down inside, I don't have that problem. So instead of going and telling them, this isn't right, I'm raw. And yes, some days it was almost unbearable. By the end of the day, I barely could make it to my bathroom to take my leg off for my shower because it was so raw. But I put salve on it after my shower and I slept and got it back on the next day. And I just keep pushing through some of those things because that is toughening my skin up for what I'm wearing. And mine is really high for more control, so it's hitting areas that it didn't before, so it's new skin, fresh skin. I'm learning that as I go. I didn't know that at the beginning. It's impossible for you to know everything you're going to face and why it's happening to you. For why it's happening to me could be very different. So it's sometimes fitting, sometimes it's your skin, sometimes it's the way you put it on. I mean, there is user error here, folks. You've got to know that we sometimes don't get it right. Putting on a prosthesis is not as easy as it looks, depending on what you have. Some of you have click ins, but a lot of us are pulling our leg in or getting our liner on and sliding our leg in, and we can have it turned just a minute amount, and it's going to toe us out or toe us in, which then up at the top, the trim line is going to rub differently. And if you're a BK, you'll know it because it's the way it's hitting your around your knee and the bone around your knee because it's really bony there. So there's a lot of user error. So before you go and either A, fire your prosthetist or complain about your prosthetist, I would suggest you make sure that you're doing everything in your power to learn your leg, your liner, your socket, and putting it on correctly. Because even me, every time I get a new socket like this one, it took me a couple weeks to feel comfortable putting it on and getting it on the right way, I should say. So it's just a learning curve. Every time you get a new socket, it's a new learning curve. It doesn't go on the same way every single time. When you get a new one, it's different. It's going to be a little bit different and it's going to be a little bit off from the way you put on the last one. So then you relearn it. And your skin, after wearing it all day, kind of molds to it too. So then you almost get a better fitting because it's almost like memory foam. It kind of knows where it's supposed to go. So you just have to work on that. But lining up your expectations to saying this is going to be a journey, that not every day is going to feel great, that you have to listen to your body and then communicate clearly to your prosthetist so he can help you efficiently and effectively, and then to give grace. Sometimes you have to work your way through some stuff, and sometimes you're not supposed to. And that is a fine line of knowing your body, your medical conditions, if you have any underlying medical conditions. I mean, some of you are like wound care people and you struggle to heal. Well, you know what? If you get any sort of rash or blister, you need to take care of that and ask your doctor or your prosthetist what you need to do. For me, I've never had that. So when I get a little blister, I just let it handle itself and put on my socket the next day and deal with it. Um, but it's not advisable for everybody to do that. You have to know your body, and your medical history. So there's just so many balls in the air when it comes to this. But it was interesting because even my um, prosthetist assistant, David, who is an amazing guy, he was the one that was there for me when I was really struggling with my fears before amputation because he is an amputee himself. He had an accident while on vacation and lost his leg, and it's been over 20 years. And he just recently had a new socket made after many years of being in the same exact socket. Like, he hadn't changed. He had hit into that status quo. His body wasn't shifting or fluctuating, and he was wearing his socket until one day he's like, my body is now starting to change. But it was like, I don't know, maybe I could be wrong, but 8 or 10 years. And now he's in a new socket and he's struggling also with a fit. But like me, it was like, that can wait. Okay, it's not perfect. It's rubbing a little bit, but that can wait. I've got other things I got to get done. It isn't, you know, immediate need right this minute, but I'm going to watch it. I'm going to listen to my body and I'm going to take notes so I know what time of day that's happening, what circumstances. Was I out hiking? Was I just sitting around the office all day? Things like that. Like, we have to watch what we're doing. How hot is it outside for us in Arizona? All that sweating happens in the summer, and it still happens now, but maybe not as much. So you get different rashes, different rubs, things like that. And it's much more willing to give, especially in a skin fit, when your skin's sweating against plastic and it wants to just come off. So that is that is just the way it is, right? So we talk about um, just understanding the process. And I know some of you, if you're listening right now, there are some of you I know that have been going through fitting after fitting after fitting, and you just can't get it right, or you don't feel like it's the right thing. Yes, keep talking to your prosthetist. Um, have them try to remake it. If they dismiss you, then that's probably not the right place to go. But also take a look at yourself, do some internal thinking. Am I giving this a chance? Am I being too specific on my expectations are so high that you would never match them? Nobody could ever make them. Am I expecting this to be a one and done? And just make sure you're doing some internal introspection, um, so that you know that when you go to your prosthetist, you're doing that with an open heart, knowing they're going to try to give their best and you are giving your best. Because that's really what it comes down to. It's a give and take. Like I said, a push and a pull. We have to ask the best of our practitioner, but we also must ask the best from ourselves. And that means sometimes giving a little bit more leeway for things that are not right yet and you're trying to work out kinks. Sometimes we can work out the kinks ourselves at home by walking repetitively in something that's just uncomfortable. And that's just how it is. I've spent months now, you guys, months working in sockets that just are doing something to me that is driving me nuts, that I don't feel like I'm at my A game yet, but I know that I am in a marathon. I am not in a sprint. As much as I want to be ready, set, go, let's do it, let's do it. You know, I was happy to go through the problems during the summer because I don't get out and hike in the heat. Now that it's getting cooler, I might get a little bit more impatient, but for most part, all my kinks are out. I'm still working on the rubbing, which that I will take any day because that's a physical pain that I can see and we can change, and I can medicate with some salve. If I was feeling bone pain or nerve pain, that is a whole nother basket of worms that you don't want to have, because that takes change in socket size and measurements and stuff. So, in a nutshell, we got fittings and sockets and legs. Oh my. I hope this gives you some insight, especially if you're struggling right now, or if you're a new amputee. Understand yourself, know who you're with, make sure you see them hearing you, that they are really connecting. You want to connect with your prosthetist because I've talked about this before. Your relationship with your prosthetist is like a marriage. It will be until the end of you or when they retire, because they are the ones that will make you happy or sad in the socket you're wearing. Your surgeon, he did his job, she did her job. Once you heal, the sutures are out, you get the thumbs up, they're done. They don't do anything to make you feel better with what you're wearing. Their job is to surgically remove that body part, stitch you up, and make sure you're healthy there and healing. So, your prosthetist is the person you want to trust the most in this world, besides your own family members, because they are the ones that are going to get to know you really well. They're going to see you at your worst, at your most vulnerable, and they're going to see you through your successes. So make sure you pick your prosthetist well, but make sure you have your expectations in check, because it is a marathon, not a sprint. You are going to go through this for the long haul, and you will drive yourself nuts if you tell yourself, oh my gosh, this is week number 4. I'm still in this test socket. I'm still not there. I'm still not there. When am I going to get? When am I going to get? You will eventually start to slow down on those conversations, but it does you no good. Trust me, it does you no good to click down how many times and how many weeks you've been in the test sockets, because it just takes time for your prosthetist to key in all the detail and make it just right for you. And trust me, in the end, your patience and their hard work is going to pay off, and you'll be off and doing your thing sooner than you know. And then you have your whole life ahead of you. So I hope this helps. I hope that it gives you a little bit of guidance when you go into a prosthetist office, and maybe you're searching right now for one. Now you know what to kind of look for, and really make sure you're being heard. Make sure that he wants your dreams to come true as much as you want them to come true. And then you need to work together as a partnership. It's always about the partnership. It isn't about him doing his job and it's not good enough for you. Do your job again. It's not good enough. Do your job. You have to be a part of that partnership. You have to communicate well, and you have to try to buck it up through some of it, because some of it is just the little bit of painful nuances of putting something weird on your body. So I hope you guys have a great week. I hope it's a blessed week. And again, veterans, thank you so much for your service, and God bless. You guys have a wonderful time in the coming months as the holidays are approaching so quickly. And until next time, be healthy, be happy, be you.